All right, new day, new challenge to tackle with our migration from the Next.js video guestbook application over to Laravel. And today we're going to be looking at how can we get the client side refreshing automatically when new entries to the video guestbook come in. So we're just going to jump right in. There's a little bit of discovery and learning that I'm going to be doing here, so we'll see what we come up with. Now, one of the approaches that I had originally taken with Supabase in the Next.js application was using their real-time updates. And I believe what this was doing was establishing a WebSocket connection with the Supabase platform that would automatically just send down new entries as they roll in. So that made it really easy to get those updates. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to take that similar approach within Laravel. I found this neat package called Laravel Wave that allows us to kind of broadcast server-side events down to the client as soon as we have a change that we want to share with any connected clients, which I started to kind of explore. But I also saw just recently with Laravel 12, there's some new helpers that allow us to use streamed events that come back from a Laravel server application to handle them nicely within the client. So I'm going to try to go this approach, I think, because it is native to Laravel. We don't have to introduce any third-party packages. And ultimately, I don't know if I need to really have the power of a real-time connection that an event stream kind of offers for this application. I do want all of the entries that are appearing in this guestbook to show up in real time or as close to real time as feels organic and natural. But we might need a lot of server resources to handle, hundreds of incoming connections to this guestbook at the same time. So a better choice might be to just kind of poll and set up a polling endpoint in the Laravel application and check every, a few seconds to see, hey, are there new entries? Are there new entries? If so, grab them, return them, and update the gallery here at the bottom. But we're going to start with the service sent events approach first. And if we need to, we'll kind of pull back and go with the polling approach. So let's get going. And if we take a look here, this shows exactly how to set up an event stream endpoint using our routes file. So I'm just going to copy their example here. But essentially what happens here is the client is going to connect to the server, and in a typical WebSocket connection that would allow for back and forth communication with the client and the server. And it kind of shows that maybe that's doable here. I've only ever used server-side events as a one-way communication from the server to the client, which is kind of what we need here. But it's also describing a chat endpoint, which would require, like both communication back and forth. But let's just keep going here and see what we can get set up. So I'm going to create a new endpoint. We are going to have a route for, we'll call it events, and it's going to be a GET request, and we'll turn on an event stream. So check this out. This suggestion is actually more towards what it is that we're looking to do, which is let's check the entries to see if we have new entries that are available with the status of ready. And if so, let's go ahead and get them. If we have them, then we'll kind of iterate over them and spit them back down to the client as a response. So I'm just going to tab and take that and see if this gets us to a good spot. So now what's interesting here that we're going to have to look into, I basically want to keep this connection open as a long-lived connection. So I might need to do like a while true loop here and then have it sleep or somehow make this sort of real-time interaction. And I don't really know exactly how to approach that just yet, but we'll see if we can run into some issues here and kind of brute force our way through it to get it doing what we want it to do. So I'm going to hit save. Now, if we look at the documentation for the client side part, we do need this package stream react from Laravel. So I'm going to copy that and get this installed. We'll go over to our Laravel app, npm install Laravel stream react. Okay, now I can go ahead and run the dev server once again. And this shows how we can use it right here. So I'm going to do some imports and connect to our endpoint that we just set up to make sure that we are getting the latest entries that are rolling in. All right, so I have this server-side endpoint set up and I wanted to test it. So I took some time to write this code here that will basically kind of modify our prop that we get back with Inertia. So we'll take that entries prop and store it instead as initial entries, and then throw it in as state using the React use state helper there. Now, this can essentially allow us to mutate it, so we can add additional entries after the fact and kind of like change, so we'll have the original entries on that initial page load and then modify it and add any additional entries that come in using this code block right here. So we're using the Laravel Stream React package and the use event stream hook to connect to our events endpoint and listen for the update event, which I think is the default that comes with the Laravel server-side code. And when we get one of those messages, we're going to parse the entry and potentially give all entries and update all entries there and just kind of like blast over it. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to approach it just yet, but here is, let's take the new entry. And if we have previous entry that already exists for that one, we'll update it with any new information. This would be helpful for like status updates, going from processing, uploaded, to ready, that kind of thing. Or if it's a brand new entry, let's go ahead and just add it to the state. So that will update our entries array right up here, and we still pass that entries array right down here to the grid. So this just kind of hooks up that real-time interactivity here. There's probably a better place for it to live, but we'll just put it here for now, make sure that everything's working. So I go back over to the application, hit reload, and everything's loading fine. If I go to the console, we're seeing that there is an object that's returning from the request, which is good. That means that this endpoint is working as expected. We only have one ready entry right now, and we're kind of iterating over the results and spitting out a new event for that entry. So this is all working as we expect. Now, the issue is that this is going to disconnect as soon as it's done. With every entry, it's going to work its way through every entry and then disconnect because there's nothing left to do. So we need to maintain that connection in some way. And because this isn't actually a stream, we're not streaming from the database, we're just making a single query. We need to set up a handler that kind of mimics a stream in some way and allows it to kind of loop over the behavior of a database connection that is consistent, and always checking for new entries. So here's the initial pass that I have right now. It's a while true block where we will check for any entries where the status is ready and get them all and kind of spit them all back down to the client. This is happening every second. We do kind of pause for 1 second here and then restart the loop up here. So these events are rolling in once every second. Now, there's still some room to kind of improve this, I think. We're getting database entries here every time that we might not need to based off of ones that are already being shown on the client in some way. So there's some duplication happening. Maybe there's some caching that we could do to improve this. So I'm going to think through a little bit more about the optimization of this and see if we can get back to a better place. Also, ultimately, this is kind of similar behavior to the polling anyway. And so maybe there's room for, I don't know, just going back to the polling. I'm not entirely sure what the route is, but I definitely wanted to try this out. So this is looking good. So I asked my buddy Claude here about trying to make this a little bit more efficient and what we might be able to do. And there was a good suggestion, I thought, that was just kind of check only the entries that are coming in based off of their updated at field. Remember that we add a timestamp anytime a record is updated within our webhook handler, so we can kind of filter out any records that are not updated since what we've currently created here. So we can always update our last check and kind of compare that to entries. So this way we're only going to be sending new entries down to the client, which should make things a little smoother, maybe more efficient here. I think this is probably a good approach here. We might need to add an index on the updated at field if we're doing these kind of queries against it. But other than that, this might be putting us in a good place to handle these client-side updates. So I think I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out now, and definitely easy to get this incorporated in Laravel. Wild that before I had to reach for an external tool with Supabase to kind of solve this sort of issue. But all of this is kind of just given to you in Laravel, which is kind of a nice addition. I don't know, but cool. So this is set up in a way. Now, the next part that we're going to need to do for this application is likely going to be getting this next page set up here, so we're not getting a 404 on the individual entry page, we have the ability to kind of load up the video here, and it loads and plays back okay, but click to take the video with me. In the previous application, this would take us to an individual page, and I'll just show you that really quick. And notice if I click on this button here, we are on the individual video page that we can then share out or download this video. And we also get this offer from Mux where we could sign up and get a credit with the application. So we need to implement this route as well, this layout. We have /entry and then / there's an entry ID right there. Right now, if I click on this, nothing happens. So we don't have that page set up, and we need to go ahead and do that. So there's a /entry ID route that we need to implement in our Laravel application. Now, I know first thing that we'll need to do here is to get a new route set up. So I'm going to go route get. The autocomplete here was for all entries, but I actually just want one entry and with the ID, and it's going to then load up a controller and name for that controller. So I think I want to create a new controller here, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm also remembering, since this is kind of a basic app, we can just do the rendering right here, which is really, I think, all we really need to do, where I can copy this callback function instead of handing off the request to a controller to kind of handle. I think I can maybe just use a callback function here. So this is going to say Inertia render. We're going to give it the name of the view that we want to render, which is entry. And we will create that right under the pages here. We'll do entry.tsx. And we'll get to that here in a bit. And then I want to change the individual entry to entry find based off of the ID. And do I need it in JSON? I don't know. We'll start with it in JSON, and if we need to remove that, we can. So we're naming the individual entry. I'll hit save. And then I'm going to also go to our entry.tsx, and I kind of just want to copy the page as it existed in the previous application. So let me get that loaded up. Over here in the Next.js application, we'll go to entry id.tsx, and there are some changes that we're going to need to make to this, including our updated import for our updated library. And this is still relying on some Supabase utilities, which we do not need anymore. So I will get this cleaned up and remove some of the Next.js stuff. Okay, so just taking a look through here from top to bottom, we are not going to need the Supabase anymore. So I'll get rid of that. Any of this next stuff we're going to have to kind of convert over. So I'll delete that. What else here? We're not going to have next router available. We do need to bring over components from this page that were in the previous application. So we have this opt-in form and download blob button. Maybe there's some opportunities to improve those, but in the meantime, let me just create a new directory in components for entry. Go over to our components over here. We have the download blob button. Drag that over. We also have the opt-in form. Drag that over. Navbar we already have right there, so I think I can change the import. That's under guestbook navbar. Okay, there's an SEO component, it looks like, as well from our old application, so I'll bring that over, SEO, into the entry directory. So we're looking for @components guestbook entry SEO, @components guestbook entry, guestbook entry. Okay, so these squigglies, one at a time, we will get these corrected. So let's get rid of the router here. Don't need that one. Now we do need to match what this type is here. And if I go to one of the other pages, I should be able to pull that up relatively easily. Go to welcome, export default function welcome. Okay, let's just yank this. Grab it, go over here. Now, if you look here, we were in the Next.js application passing the individual entry details via props, and we're not doing that here. So I'm going to rename export default function entry. Yep, we'll get that updated. We do want the use page import, so that takes care of that. shared data. We will get that taken care of here momentarily. So let's also take a look. We have the Mux video component, and if I recall, we import that over within our video card. There we go. I'll copy that one. We'll go back over to the entry page, update the import for that, and one red line closer. So a couple things already I know that we're going to be kind of cleaning up here. First, we don't have a get static paths, and we're going to take a look at what the kind of replacement for this sort of thing is within Laravel, but I'm going to get rid of it for now. We also have, look at this massive function here, get static props, that will basically do the fetching of the entry on the server side within Next.js. This is our old Next app before the app directory. So we are kind of checking the Supabase, making the database call here for Supabase, doing some validation, and then returning it to the client. Man, that is like 100, what is that? 134. It's like 40 lines of code there that we can just completely obliterate, which is amazing. So I'm gonna hit save, and we're just gonna keep kind of hacking away at this thing, getting it in shape. Here at the top, we can update the constants import. There's also this delete key context, which I'm not sure if we brought that over or not, kind of forget. So we'll take a look at that one here in a bit. Use href. Oh, I don't know what this one does. Let's go ahead and check it out over here. Use href. That looks like maybe some kind of like server side patch or something here. I'm not sure, but it doesn't look like it will be used in our side, so we'll get rid of that. Href, use href. Share data, entry URL. Okay, we'll get all that shaped up. All right, so we are heading down the path here. There's just a little bit more app-specific cleanup that I'm going to do, so I'll do some of that off camera just so I don't fumble through it too much, and then I'll explain what I changed when we come back. Quickly up here at the top, this is something we did move over, but we just had the casing wrong there. Now, another interesting part here that we have some custom code for is this navigator.share functionality, which is kind of the native sharing functionality within mobile browsers that will allow you to kind of drop it in messages or email and so on. And this is the way we currently access it. It's a little spaghetti, frankly. So I'm going to try to get this refactored with some AI assist here to just say, hey, we have a new use share hook that's empty right now. Let's consolidate all the existing navigator.share code within our entry.tsx file and then implement it into a new use share hook, but use it with an entry TSX. So I'm going to just call this and see how it does. Finishing up the writing here. What a world. All right, just reviewing some of the changes that Cursor's made here. Now, as kind of typical, if you don't really yell at it to scope it down, it will potentially make some changes that we weren't necessarily expecting, but maybe they're not bad changes here. So let's just take a look. We're seeing that it's cleaned up some of the imports here at the top. We've gotten rid of the old props and we're calling a new interface for the entry data. There's probably a different place that this could live, but we're just going to keep rolling with this for now. Page props, we have an entry data, use page props. So this isn't coming in with the shared data, right? Because we're only loading the entry on the current entry page. So this is kind of bypassing the Inertia shared data and just using our custom props instead. Href is just grabbing the location.href from the window. And here's the share data. We can see that it's all been kind of removed here and implemented over on this side in the use share custom hook, which just looks pretty good. So instead of calling all of that inline here, we're calling use share. We're passing the event title, which is in this case, going to be our conference title, the text that we want to share alongside of that. And then it also made some changes here. So we're not calling router.push, we're using router.visit, which I'm guessing is the approach within Inertia. This is for an unrelated route, but we're going to have to revisit that code at some point anyway here. And so we'll see if it looks like it's auto-completing the type, so maybe it's a valid change. So looking further down here, we're just using the entry.aspect ratio instead of calling aspect ratio directly. So that looks good. Same for here. We're calling entry.playback ID instead of playback ID. Those are still values that exist within the entry. We just never destructured them to their own variables. So that's why it's making that change. Same for down here. We're also passing some metadata to Mux Video. This will be captured within the Mux data product. When you are playing these videos back, it will load up within the Mux data for the account that that video is hosted on and be available to kind of filter through within Mux data, which is a pretty neat feature that you get for free with Mux. And then we got here is download blob button. It's looking like it's making some changes to how the entry is accessed here. And yeah, so all of this looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and accept all and YOLO. Wow. I mean, I just feel like I'm becoming an inadequate developer with AI. To prevent spiraling, I'm just going to keep rolling here. We're in the SEO component. I noticed trying to load up that individual page, we still have a Next.js import here. We do have an Inertia version of this head component, which kind of injects any information that we want into the head of our document. So I'll just overwrite that one there and use href. Do we use this somewhere in here? Oh, yeah, we do right down here. So we may need to pass a prop for the href here, or maybe we can just do that. I'm not sure if there's anything Inertia specific that we may need to do here, but we will figure that out and take a look. So back over here, let's just try to load up the individual entry, click, and still not loading here. I wonder, we do have the URL change in place, which is good. You know what's kind of interesting is I do see an error in the console, but it's not as detailed as when I load that same page in Chrome. Look, I'm getting some additional details here to say delete keys from the use delete key context is undefined. Well, already I see we're trying to access the delete key context outside of the context itself because we're trying to set the context here. However, we're trying to access it here. So I do need to wrap this layout earlier, which is going to lead me down the path of maybe just figuring out if there's a better place to put the wrapper. Maybe somewhere in like, I don't know, somewhere in here, wrap it. This could be potentially a good fit here. Let's see if I can get that set up. So I will try to import the store here rather than within the entry page. Let's copy this out of here. Go over to our app.tsx, import, wrap it, and let's get rid of the store stuff here. Save, try to reload, and there, at least the page is loading. So it looks like maybe we're still not quite getting the entry set up as we need to, but we do have a page loading here, and it's making me recall that I could probably get rid of the store here as well since it's wrapping the entire application now. So I'll hit save and also just delete the import. And now both pages should work. If we just go back to the home, cool, that's working. Okay, so yeah, let's figure out why this video isn't loading as we'd expect. Aha, so this is actually rendered JSON. This is not an object, right? And that happened due to this call here. So while we are sending JSON down the wire with our event stream, we don't actually need to do that within our Inertia rendering. So I'll just delete that, hit save, don't need the console log anymore. And we're seeing the video load up just fine now. So don't need to call or convert that to JSON to get this set up. So let's just see too, while we're here, the Twitter share looks okay. Probably have to update that domain. We got download, which I don't think this is going to work right now because we don't have static renditions being passed to the download button. This is a Mux specific thing, not really related to the migration. So we'll look at that in a bit. And then we also have share, right? So the share says plain text. I don't know what this is saying, plain text. I wonder if we can adjust this somehow. Maybe we can. And if I were to click on any of these, it would share it to that particular application. So that is working as we'd expect. All the logging is showing up over here. We'll need to wire up this form, but this is looking pretty good. So on the home page, we have all of our entries loading. We have the individual video card popping up, and we can scan or take the video with us to view this new entry page. So pretty happy with how this is all wired up. We're going to keep pushing forward to clean up any of the shortcuts we've been taking or any edge cases. And after that, I think that we're probably in a pretty good shape to call this migration complete, or at least close to it. We've found a lot of interesting things along the way. One that I want to touch on at some point here is this Inertia ability to link using what they call Wayfinder, which allows you to kind of construct the URL for the individual entries based off of a controller, which is kind of cool. This will create the URL and infer the HTTP method directly, which maybe this is just a small nicety, but it's kind of cool to have a convention and some consistency with how you present links within your application. Now, the catch for me anyway is I don't have a show method or a controller at all right now for the individual entries. So I don't think I could use this as is, but maybe I'll do some refactoring to implement this pattern because it's kind of nice. Anyway, that's it for now. All in all, this has been a relatively smooth migration. There's always a little bit of education and learning throughout the process, but there does seem to be parity between anything I'm trying to do with a Next.js. Laravel's got it covered in some way. So that's nice that you know that there's coverage, but also that it's kind of batteries included, that you just can find the package or approach within Laravel that can help to accomplish the task regardless of what it was. I didn't feel like I was hitting any errors or issues that I couldn't solve based off of what was provided by Laravel, which is really nice to have that confidence. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.